before the game released fully publicly on the 4th of November, we had a patch in EU5 where the regular troops just did insane amounts of damage, absolutely crazy numbers, and as such, the game became a case of who can get to professional armies first, who can get to armories first, who can get to raising handgunners first. And once you managed to do that, you were pretty much set for the game. You were pretty much set for defeating your immediate neighbor until they caught up. And generally the AI was less likely to catch up and really go heavy into professional armies until much, much later. So you were in a very, very good spot. And also very much affected multiplayer as well, because, you know, if you get professional armies before your neighbor, you win the next war quite handily. And recently, Paradox made a patch where that sort of became true again. This is a battle that these 600 Crusading Knights will probably lose, but it is going to be much closer than I think anyone would have expected. Certainly closer than what would happen a week ago when professional troops were just so insanely weak that you know, this wouldn't even be close. We're gonna fight a 10-1, and yeah, we'll probably lose, but the chances of us doing a lot of damage and taking very few casualties is also pretty high here. I'm gonna keep it on 4 speed. Again, we're gonna lose this battle, but numbers-wise, this is a fight that, as somebody with manpower, I can regenerate 235 troops in a month. The enemy is not going to be regenerating these. So, professional troops got superbly buffed, or levies became absolutely crippled with a nerf, but that is not intended. This is not the intended state of the game. This is not something that we should expect to have stick around, because as of, well, today, we have gotten this thread from Yuan. Levies versus regulars. Some information from Tinto. One of the challenges and problems we had that were still around with 1.02 and 1.04 was the scaling of levies versus regulars and the scaling of levies through the ages. 1.05 was attempting to address 3 different problems. Firstly, levies were always stronger than regulars for the first ages. It was essentially up until age 3, maybe almost into age 4, where levies were still just stronger than regulars. Of course, levies don't replenish quite so much. There was a bug that allowed them to replenish it instantly, and the AI could just re-raise them, which was very annoying. But still, because of the frontage situation where it's 1,000 men versus 100, 200, or 400, levies were just stronger and better to have in a fight, and that didn't feel good. That didn't feel good because regulars cost a lot of money to set up. Firstly, building armories. Secondly, the maintenance on armories was insanely high. Levies themselves, the troops, cost a lot of money to hire. They cost a lot of money to maintain. And then if you are being still beaten by somebody who clicks a button and raises many more men for essentially not free, but they don't have to pay the maintenance while you're not at war, that felt worse. So this was a big problem. And yeah, they did try and address it. There was no difference in quality between the quality of levies for the first 3 ages, making improved ones worse. This was especially noticeable if you played as England, where you start with warbows, which is some incredibly strong English longbowman style of levies. But if you taken techs for, you know, peasant levy or men-at-arms levy or any of these kinds of techs, your regular your levies just became just objectively worse, which obviously doesn't feel good either. Anything impacting levy combat efficiency did nothing, as the values were capped at 100% and 1,000 men was at 100% already. I was not aware that levy combat efficiency did nothing. That is very unfortunate to hear, because I was always taking these whenever I could find them. I thought they just made my troops fight better. Apparently did nothing. That's fun. So, they've made every manpower in levies actually scale for how good they would be versus a regular from the same age, which together with the fixes, levies fight at 50%, meant that a 1,000 levy regiment fought at a minus 95% penalty. basically making them useless in the first age. And that's what we just saw when in that fight versus the Teutons. We almost won a 10 versus 1 situation. So Johan spent most of the day on a revised system so that it feels better, and they're heavily testing it now, and it should be in for tomorrow's 1.0.7 update. Looking forward to testing with that. That seems, seems kind of necessary. So how does it work? They've made it so every Levy type has a 0.2 multiplier that increases by 0.05 every age. So an Age of Discovery Levy will have 0.3, and that is increased by the Levy combat efficiency. I believe 0.2 multiplier is like a damage dealt multiplier, or the combat efficiency multiplier. So if you have a combat efficiency of 100%, this will turn it down to 20%. That seems reasonable. And you can see that it is being displayed on the unit panel here for the mailed knights. Very nice. So the French levies here will be fighting at 40.32% of power, which is slightly worse than 1.04 that had a flat 50% here, but it scales better. So what does the 101.6% from France come from? He's got this one here is the number he's talking about. So auxilium, it's concilium. This is a noble privilege. The amount of noble estate power increases as well, and then noble levies is the law, also increases it. Very nice. So strong nobility, some privileges to the nobility, and some laws helps them out. Now, something that you can do maths, that's not me, and think Age of Revolutions will be at 0.45% efficiency, and if I stack over 122% levy combat efficiency, I can get them to be better than regulars. However, as you can see here, there are penalties as the ages go on to levy combat efficiency. So this one has gone down to 41%, and that is because in the Age of Revolutions, there's a minus 60% penalty to levy combat efficiency. This seems fine to me. Like, levies should get worse as the game goes on. That's fine. Or I feel like it's less that they should get worse and more that the regulars should get better. But I'm sure coming at it from both angles is probably fine. There's a bunch of responses to here as well. The screenshots are showing an increasing bonus, not a penalty. That's not how that works. If you are timesing by 0 point something, that is definitely a bonus. But yeah, it's definitely a penalty. But yes, it does increase because the age goes further and they get better, but also the age goes on and they get worse. So it comes from both directions. It's too complex and contradictory. The multiplier increases with age, but the levy combat efficiency decreases with age. So the multiplier increases on the actual units to make them better than the previous ages. Yeah, increasing the damage dealt by every successive unit. So you go and research the various technologies that will increase your different levies. So for example, we have here men-at-arms levies. These are levies, so these will have more damage dealt, but at the same time you've got into the Age of Renaissance, so they're coming back. So essentially you go into the next age and your levies get worse, so you then have to research the next levy tech to bring that back into a decent spot for you. Otherwise you are going to be very much unhappy with your levies. They're just not going to work very well. Why not make it so that the earliest regulars have 0.1 frontage? It breaks down how regulars work completely. First of all, it makes it so there's no upgrade at all with new units, completely removing the incentive to get new units and advance in tech. That's what I basically just showed off. And secondly, it would break the UI as they need to make the combat screens 10 times as wide to be able to show combat. That's all fair enough. Wondering the same even it has other sources like privileges granted to the states, which could increase it, such as arming the peasants. It makes little sense for republics and even monarchies in taller playstyles to have worse levies because they disfavor the nobility. So they're going to look into modifiers later. He's not keen on adding another day or two of deployment to this. And basically, yeah, there's Auxilium et Concilium, I think, is not available for republics, if I recall correctly. So your Italian republics are going to maybe fight a little bit worse. Anyone that wants to get rid of the nobles is going to have issues as well, because we did see there is a buff to levy combat efficiency for the power of the nobles, but that I feel is fine, right? That is a case of a trade-off, right? The nobles do all of these bad things, and you want to get rid of them, go plutocracy, all of this. but at the same time, like, you do get benefits from them. Like, your army's fighting better. I'm totally fine with trade-offs like this. That seems absolutely fine to me. Do Legion Burgers not provide levies anymore? Yes, they do. Gothic here doing a little bit of quick maths. Pretty easy to get to 100% levy combat efficiency in Age 1, just being a monarchy, privileges, blah, blah, blah. With 100% there at Age 1, you do 0.4 effective damage to regulars Age 1, 0.47 in Age 2, 5.2 in Age 3, 5.7 Age 4, and then it just definitely stops scaling. So Ioana is saying that he should fix it down to 10% for Age 6 in 1.08. Fair enough. And then here somebody was saying about these levies not good enough, blah, blah, in late game, especially like Napoleon's conscript units were what Napoleon had the most of, but again, his regulars were his best troops, so they should still be better, and that's fine as well. This is not all, though. There is another thread that was updated today, and we're going to have a look at that. Another Tinto talk where they're going to talk about EU5. Yay. Tomorrow we'll release 1.07, which includes the fixes to levies, and this is the thread that we just watched, further improvements to killing privateers and some crash fixes, working with fixing issues that have been reported, making sure that as many as possible are solved every week. So, interesting changes for next week. Economical base, we're getting a little bit of an idea of how this is now going to fare. I have been a little bit unhappy with the way that trade works, and mostly it's less about how trade works and how it's impacting things like my cost of court, things like my stability cost, etc. I think trade is not profitable enough, especially in the early game, to cover the costs that come with it. So, very happy that this is going to be changed. It's got some negative feedback in how it's calculated, so the system really needs reworking. Yes. Before, the issue was basically that the economical base was calculated from your tax base plus the buy price of your trades. While that scaled nicely, it also made trade far less beneficial than it should be. It also made building up your tax base not always great. Yeah, no, this felt bad because you built up the tax base and then you ended up spending more money because of it, which it felt really, really bad in that regard. For the next patch instead, they're now basing economical base on 3 different factors: your tax base, your subject's tax base, and your population, with 50% of it from your tax base, 10% of your subject's tax base, and 0.01 ducats for each 1,000 pops you have. This seems really good. It means trading nations are now going to be stronger because your trade is not impacting your tax base, which is not impacting the things like your cost of court and such. I am totally in favor of this. I think that's actually a really, really good change. It's now not going to be just a flat nerf for you to go and do a bunch of trading. Especially if you become a hegemon, then you're getting even more money taken away from you in these costs because you've traded. So yeah, no, this seems so much better. At the same time, they'll restore trade maintenance back to the intended size. Increasing that by 10 times was fine. The problem was that it impacted tax base, and the problem was it impacted your costs of court and such. I'm fine with this going back up to intended sizes now that it's not going to have ripple effects that are just completely detrimental. Combat tooltips. To be brutally honest, the tooltips we had on regiments in combat were rather bad and confusing, and some things were completely hidden. Now we'll see which section a regiment is in, which section a target is in. You'll also see the chance of joining the main sections. If they're in the reserves, the chance of using initiative to engage. So you can see the hourly chance to engage here, all of the numbers that you might need. Also been reworking how we display the damage a regiment does as well, so it's more clear with the multiplier to the left and the actual change in the damage to the right. Yay for decimals on soldiers. So all of these changes are impacting how many casualties they're doing, but doesn't seem like a whole lot of casualties, I'm not going to lie. So lovely there, seeing more of these. Does 2 strength damage because 12, the impact on the strength from the dice, from the discipline, it's an extra 1. Minus 60% because there's only, 60% of 40% of them left in the regiment. So having consolidating your units is going to be super important, as per usual. The military tactics of Bohemia, the enemy is also impacting it. The fact that you are Eastern Roman infantry is impacting it, and the experience of the enemy is increasing it as well. On to decentralization versus centralization. One of the meta that appeared was that centralization was always superior, so they've decided to rework the societal value to be a distinct choice and less of a no-brainer. We reworked subject loyalty so that a significant part of what used to be the base value is now impacted by this societal value, where if you want to have a lot of subjects, it's probably beneficial to be decentralized. They also made it so the diplomatic ability of rulers impacted your subjects' loyalty. It kind of already does. It kind of already does. And I'm going to go back to the game so we can have a look here at the 25 diplomatic ability increases the diplomatic reputation by 1.25. This is affecting subject loyalty. It also affects it because of the diplomatic capacity, because if you are going over your diplomatic capacity, the loyalty of all of your subjects goes down. So having this number be higher makes this number be higher and this number be higher, which means the loyalty of your subjects will be higher. Unless unless you're not going over the cap like we're not here. But also, yeah, increasing decentralization value to be something that someone might desire. I mean, it is kind of already there. Was this already here? I feel like it was already here. Maybe it's just being more important. Seems fine, I guess, ish. What I would do, I don't know if this is something that can really be done without testing, but an idea I had, let's say, is the reason people went centralization because crown power is so incredibly important and proximity cost is so incredibly important. These two values are crazy. Like, I don't feel like subjects are going to be enough of a reason to ever go decentralization. However, if you have a scaling on the decentralization, have a scaling amount of proximity source from things like towns and cities coming from decentralization, then I would see them as a bit more of a choice. It would allow me to say, if I'm decentralized, have a city far away from my capital that is giving some source of proximity based on how much decentralization there is, so they don't become useless. I don't know, maybe a modder can test how viable that would be. That would be kind of cool. But yeah, that's it. That's all we got for today. There is actually a couple of comments on this one, but nothing too much. Will the changes come with 1.07 or the later patch? These will be coming next week. Any info on the states being perpetually bankrupt, is that fixed? Yes, it will be. So, fantastic stuff. That is all that I have for you. So let's just zoom into the sexy new unit models for the Crusader Knights. And yeah, thanks all for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this little video, this little update. I will continue to spread the news whenever it appears in my field of vision. So subscribe if you haven't already, and you can also stay informed about this game that we're not hyped about because it's already out and we have it, but we're all very excited to keep playing, I'm sure. Anyway, thanks all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.